had a good weekend. We had a great webinar all about perennials. It was nice and busy in the store. Lots of people in. I got to speak to some customers and help some people out. So that's always fun and exciting. And it was a good weekend. I didn't have a lot to do. I went out to Nose Hill and then I took Jimmy to Milk and bought Jimmy ice cream.
Oh, great local spot.
Yeah. If you guys haven't been to Milk, it's an ice cream store, local, small batch ice cream. Highly recommend. But that's not what I'm here for. I just wanted to tell you I took Jimmy out. And when we were on Nose Hill, tons of things blooming, including dandelions, which made me think of our topic today, which is weeds or weeps.
Weeps? I didn't even notice that.
I didn't notice it until I looked back.
There you go.
Weeds.
Perfect.
I want to talk about weeds. They are very, very, very divisive. A lot of people don't like weeds. And what always makes me laugh is one of the reasons, and Brandy and I were just talking about this, one of the reasons people don't like weeds is because they think, oh, what will my neighbors think? If everybody is thinking that, then technically nobody really has a problem with weeds. We have a problem with our neighbors. Because I'll tell you right now, not once in anywhere I've ever lived, even apartments where I've looked after the ground, have I ever cared about weeds in the lawn, ever. In fact, I will encourage them to the point where I put down clover, and at that point, it stops becoming a weed. By definition, all weed is, and I'll get into a little bit more, but all a weed is an unwanted plant. So, if you've got a 20-foot spruce tree, it's blocking your view, casting shade all over your garden, you can't grow your lawn under it, and it's not very pretty. It's a weed tree. You don't want it. It is an unwanted plant, ergo it's a weed. Now, the definition expands because that spruce tree isn't going to spread across your property. It's not going to be popping up throughout your vegetable garden. It's not going to send seeds all over the neighborhood and blanket everybody with spruce tree. So, whilst the very strict definition that spruce tree is a weed, it's not a weed as we think of them. So most weeds, when we think of our common weeds, okay, I ask anybody to name a weed. The first one that they're normally going to name is our ever-loving dandelion. Okay, one of my all-time favorite plants for a number of reasons. In the spring, when everything is like kind of still not wonderful and kind of brown and nothing's happening, it's often that first burst of color we get. And we start to see yellow, which is good for the soul. It's also massively important to the pollinators. They can get a ton of pollen off of it. They're everywhere, so they can get it. And they are very hungry. They just woke up. They really desperately need that pollen. So the dandelion is amazing. It also helps naturalize an area with its very, very strong tap root system. It helps hold the soil so it prevents erosion. So the dandelion is actually an incredible plant. And check this, if you don't let it go to seed, you let it come up and it's a beautiful yellow flower and it's like, look at me, I'm yellow. Then the flower starts curling and you get that nubby seed pod, deadheaded. It won't spread seeds. It just cannot. And it's a perennial. So it'll come back and you will constantly get the blooms. So it is actually really easy to control the spread of dandelions. Unfortunately, people spray them, and they spray them when they're in bloom. So you can imagine how good that is for the pollinator. So I like dandelions, and I understand why my mom hates them, okay? I'll throw my mom under the bus, I always do. My mom hates dandelions, but we don't kill them until either they're before bloom or after bloom, so we're not hurting the pollinator. Another one that people instantly recognize is clover. Okay, clover is amazing. We actually sell packets of clover seed here. I've put it down myself. Clover, it will naturalize an area. It never gets taller than that. So if you replace your lawn with clover, you're not cutting it. It puts out blooms constantly. The pollinators absolutely love it. You can get fall blooms, full season blooms with clover. It will attract pollinators to your garden incredibly well. It's a nitrate fixer. So that means as it's growing in your lawn, the roots are leaching out nitrogen. Well, what does the grass love? Nitrogen. So it actually boosts the grass and makes it stronger and thicker. So clover in your lawn is actually an exceptional partnership with grass, and it requires less water. So you don't have to water it as often to keep it green and healthy. Years ago, I had a lawn, I just started, and it was about 1/3 clover, 1/3 grass, and 2/3 grass, I should say, sorry, with some other weeds mixed in. We went on vacation to England, and while I was gone, I had arranged somebody to come and water my veggies and my flowers, but not the lawn. I don't water my lawn. I don't care about it. We came back and we'd been gone for 17 days. During that time, I think it had rained once. The grass was brown, it was yellow, there was a bit of green, but nothing. The clover was still that deep, luscious green. And the other thing, you might find a fall leaf clover, which then makes you lucky. Okay? So, 2 plants that are considered weeds that I love to have in my yard. Another one, Bellflower. Okay? Everybody in Calgary knows Bellflower.
Is that the purple one?
Yep, creeping Bellflower. I love it. I absolutely love it. That is all throughout my lawn. Yeah, and here's something else. Actually, I'll talk about this first, and then I'll get to that. Stay on track. It's so easy for me to go off on different things. But Bellflower, big, huge, bright flowers, they attract the pollinators like nobody's business. So if you're trying to get your tomatoes, your cucumbers, whatever, raspberries pollinated, Bellflower is the best advert you've got. An amazing root system, so it keeps the earth. Now the root system can be invasive, which is how it grows, but it's not so invasive that other plants can't grow. Bellflower will crowd the other plants out. So the roots aren't going to kill the roots of the other plants, but what Bellflower will do is it'll just crowd out the other plant to the point that it can't grow anymore. It's stifled, it can't photosynthesize, it may rob some water, it won't allow water to get there. So Bellflower is going to cause you problems, but naturally it's not. Now all 3 of these, I don't want them in my flower beds. I don't want them in my vegetable beds because, like I said, they will steal nutrients. Even if clover won't steal too many nutrients, it leaches nitrogen. Tomatoes don't like nitrogen, so I don't want that with my tomatoes. So I will keep them out of my flower beds. In my flower beds, these are unwanted plants, but guess what? In my flower bed, I don't want a tomato growing or a spruce tree or a lilac. So that just became an unwanted plant. However, if I have a hedge and it's all cotoneaster, I want cotoneaster there. I want a lilac hedge. So it's where they go where it becomes the problem. And a weed can become a weed based on its location or based on its species. So some people, they just have that hatred of dandelions. I hate them, I don't want them. So it doesn't matter if it's in your lawn or in your flower bed, the dandelion is the weed. Other people are like, oh, I love clover in my grass, but I don't want it in my flower bed. Therefore, clover isn't the weed. The location has defined the necessity of calling this a weed. So it really depends what you're looking for, what you can accept, and can you see a benefit. Years ago, anecdotally, I had a neighbor come up to me, and this is 6 years ago now. And we were in Mount Pleasant. I had a yard, it was dead. I cleaned it up, I fixed it, I brought it back to a living garden, took a season, and the next year, everything. I had tomatoes, I had sunflowers, I had everything going. And a neighbor came up to me to ask me how I'd done it. He had 3 pots with tomatoes in them and nothing else, and then just grass. And I said, you don't have any other blooms, and all of the natural ones, I see you out there and you're spraying, you know, Killex all over your yard. There's no reason for the bees to come to you, especially when they're flying down the middle of the street and they see mine, which is like this all-you-can-eat buffet, and you've got nothing. They're all coming here. And I was like, allow like naturalization or plant more flowers. And he was like, oh, okay. And he never did, and I never saw him with any tomatoes. And that's on him. Yeah, maybe he got a few. Wind will naturally pollinate. Some bees will have stopped by, guaranteed. But my yard was full of bees all the time. It's where I taught Harry, if you see a sick bee, pick it up. It's not going to sting you. Get it some sugar water and let it fly away. So the weeds have a great purpose. And also, if you take an area, well, I get this a lot of times where people go, can I sterilize the soil? Can I pasteurize the soil? Absolutely you can. However, what is going to go there first? It will be weeds. If you don't have a plan for the moment you remove that cover after you've pasteurized your soil and you pull that back, the first plants in there are going to be weeds. And by definition, the reason they're in there is to naturalize the soil. They start developing it and breaking it up. What are they encouraging? They're encouraging bugs. They're encouraging nematodes. This whole life is going to start happening around them, which then makes the soil livable. Then other plants start growing there. Then we get diversity. If you ever see an area in the forest that's been burned or scorched, or maybe they put a logging path through there, and now they're allowing it to naturalize, well, it doesn't turn into a forest again overnight. We see mosses, and we see ferns and dandelions, and they start creeping in. Then we start seeing little trees popping up, and then it develops back into a forest. So these are actually massively important for the environment to naturalize areas and stabilize areas. And then something else about a weed. Another thing that makes it a weed is its absolute adaptability and resilience. If we went through our gardens and sprayed Killex on them, we'd have no perennials left. We do it on our lawns, and the dandelions are like, see you later, I'm back.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my God, the dandelions are back. Yes, because of their adaptability. And there are actually weeds out there that have started building a tolerance and a resistance even to glyphosates. So even to Roundups, there are plants that are developing this because that's how adaptable they are. So instead of constantly looking at this battle that we are never going to win, we are never going to win the fight against weeds, maybe it's time we started changing our perception to them. And if all you're doing is keeping weeds out of your flower beds, it's a lot easier of a target than trying to keep your weeds, because a flower bed by its very nature is primarily open soil with some perennials or annuals or tomatoes or whatnot. So you can get in with a trowel and you can dig out the whole root. We're not using harsh chemical sprays. We're not running the risk of damaging pollinators. So if we can change that and be like, okay, I'm going to control them so they don't hurt the plants I want, but I'm going to learn to live with them in my lawn, we can actually come up with a really good balance, and we can start redefining how we look at what a weed is and how we treat it. It will save you time, it will save you money, it will save spraying chemicals, it will save stress, because you don't look out and see them and go, oh no, I'm stressed. And to go back to what I said at the beginning about my neighbors, not once have I ever cared what my neighbors thought about my weeds, and not once has a neighbor ever complained to me. Not once. And my lawn is full of them. Like literally, I encourage them. I will sow seeds if I can. I see dandelions and they go into bloom, I'll push the mower around them. Okay? I want them to spread. It's less lawn cutting for me and better for the pollinators. So it's a win-win. So I hope that gives us an idea about weeds. I hope that lets us know that, you know, if we can learn to change our perceptions and understand why they're not there to drive us crazy, okay? They're not there for us to be like, oh, why can I not get rid of these? They have a purpose, and if we can learn to see that and understand what they are and what being a weed means, maybe it can change our perspective of gardening. So that's everything on weeds. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. You know, there's noxious weeds, and there's weeds like purple loosestrife that we need to get under control because the benefit outweighs the menace. But I'm talking here about common weeds we see in our gardens. I'm not talking about noxious weeds. I'm not talking about poison ivies. I'm not talking about purple loosestrifes here. That's a whole other subject that I absolutely could delve into and discuss, but we don't have time. So I think we're doing a webinar on weeds, maybe, or maybe not. I haven't looked at the schedule. That's basically what I'm telling you all
I'm
there.
stuck too. I don't remember.
I don't know. If we are, if we're not, maybe we'll do that next year. Maybe that's an idea. Enjoy your Monday, everybody. Enjoy the weather. Perfect for sitting down with a cup of tea. That's what I'm going to go have right now. Make myself a cup of tea and get back to work. Always fun seeing you. Always fun talking to you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.